Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CBT podcast. I'm here with Ethan. I'm here with Rod. And before getting into today's video, we want to take just a moment to thank you as we did recently hit 100 subscribers.
Yeah, it's so funny because we read every comment. It's just really wholesome to see people say things, say they subscribe, say they enjoyed, disagreeing with Ethan's opinions. It's always fun.
It's
I think
always nice.
the best part about it is it's the off season. This is the boring part of basketball. So I can only imagine how far we're gonna go once basketball actually starts up again. And maybe one day I'll even be able to get a functional mic from this podcast. So that'll be nice.
Nah, definitely. We appreciate all the subscribers. We definitely were not expecting this so soon, especially when we first came up with this idea.
Not
We were
at
like,
all.
oh, yeah, we didn't think we'd make it this far at all. And I just want to say thank you once again for all that support. And I'll definitely be in the comments.
Yeah, so I think the most fun part of this for me is interacting with all you guys. So the more you comment, the more you leave likes, the more you subscribe, the more we can interact with you. And that is something we enjoy. So please do take your time out the day to do one of those things, as we greatly appreciate. But getting into today's video, we are talking about a much darker subject, something a lot gloomier than hitting 100 subscribers, and that is Ben Simmons of the Brooklyn Nets, I think. We don't know that for sure. He obviously has yet to play in a Nets uniform. He didn't play a single game last season. But Rod, how are you feeling about the current Ben Simmons situation?
Well, I'd assume he still likes to play basketball. He still shows up in his little suits, sits on the sidelines, doesn't play, of course, but he's there. I think he'll play next year. So if we're just looking about what that would look like, the situation right now, it appears that at least KD and most likely Kyrie will return to play next season for the Brooklyn Nets. So how would Ben Simmons fit in with that? I think he would be forced to not be the primary ball handler, obviously, and that would be a new thing for him. Obviously, would be the first time in his career, but I think he is a very versatile player. So I think there are a lot of different roles he could excel in, and one that I've heard you mention before is the Draymond Green role.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the way that the Nets roster is made up, they have two stars, both who can shoot the lights out from outside the arc. And they also have this guy who's a great playmaker, a great defensive player, a great rebounder, and he just struggles with his jump shot, right? As I'm sure we're all more than aware. Does that sound familiar to you guys?
Oh yeah, I've heard of a
It
guy like
sounds a
that.
lot like Draymond Green on the Golden State Warriors. And what has Draymond Green's role on the Warriors led to? For them things, right? So I think Ben Simmons has to, for once in his life, not be selfish with this Brooklyn Nets team, assuming this is the roster come opening night, which is far from assumed. But if he can be less selfish, be that screen setting, just that guy who's willing to do anything, no matter what it means for his stats, anything to help his team win, then the Nets, obviously, they have 3 All-Stars at their peak. They are more than capable of coming out the East and winning the finals, but that is entirely contingent on Ben Simmons and his role on the team this year.
I have watched Ben Simmons for a couple of years now, when we beat him all the time. I understand where you guys are coming from with him fitting into that Draymond Green role. I think that would be very beneficial for him and his career moving forward, especially playing with KD and Kyrie. Now, the biggest reason why that won't happen is because he just doesn't have that attitude. Draymond Green is just one of those players that has that certain mentality, that attitude, that dog mentality,
Got that
Smart can
dog
have
in
it
him.
as yeah, exactly. Patrick Beverly, like it's just there's a certain that's not created. You're born with that mentality. And that's just something that Ben Simmons doesn't have.
Oh, not at all.
Not at all. Not even close, man. Like a paper can look at him the wrong way and it's just his
He'll
whole
be out for a month.
Yeah. So I can see where he would be beneficial in that role. I personally think they're gonna use him in that Bruce Brown role, where it's kind of like those backdoor cuts, kind of in the wing, just that continuation of backdoor cuts. Every now and then he'll set a
Spotting
screen.
up in the corner.
Oh no, none
See,
of that.
yeah,
None of that.
that's where I draw the line. I just think that it's gonna be very hard, especially when Steve Nash is your coach, and you already have issues with him as your coach, and then you got to go ahead and find a role for Ben Simmons. My personal belief is that the Nets should go ahead and trade him. I think all this talk around KD and Kyrie getting traded, which I think they should keep KD, but I think Kyrie's got to go, and I think they should use Ben Simmons as a piece to also get a decent amount of like players to build around KD. I think there is a market for Ben Simmons. I think
Oh,
they
yeah.
just didn't. I think the 76ers were the reason why also Ben Simmons didn't get traded, because he was looking like Daryl Morey was looking for something big. But I think for what the Nets are at right now, I think if they traded Ben Simmons for some really key pieces for that team, they could end up being a contender in the East, like for real.
Yeah, I agree and disagree with that. I think if the Nets are looking to bring back KD and Kyrie and try and win a ring next year, I think it is best to try and move on from Ben Simmons and try and get a guy who could quickly just help you compete. But I think there's a lot of benefits to keeping Ben Simmons. I think you were a little underrating him there with a Bruce Brown role. That's kind of disrespectful. I think he could even play the Draymond Green role a little better than Draymond, because Draymond does not have Ben Simmons' athletic gifts. He does not have Ben Simmons' natural playmaking. Draymond's kind of a de facto point guard at times, when Ben Simmons is a true point guard with the passing, accuracy and vision. So I think Ben, not to mention being one of the best transition players in the NBA. So I feel like there are a lot of things he can do for the Nets, none of which could be used by head coach Steve Nash. That's a possibility. He could just bench Ben Simmons for all we know. But I do think Ben Simmons, he's been an all-star already. I think he's been a DPOY candidate already. And there's a lot of room for him still to grow, even without a jump shot. So I think it is beneficial for them to keep Ben Simmons moving forward.
Yeah, now you said that you could see Ben Simmons becoming a better Draymond Green role player than Draymond Green himself, which I think you could say would be true if you took Ben Simmons and put him on that Warriors team with that roster, with their system, with their head coach. Then he could very well exceed what Draymond Green has done throughout his career. However, Ben Simmons is not playing under Steve Kerr. He is playing under Steve Nash, as you just said. And in addition to that, Draymond, since he came into the league, was put into his head that this is the role he will play. This is the role that will help them win the championships. And he spent the entirety of his career just mastering that one role. Ben Simmons had a much different start to his career than Draymond Green. Like you said, if Draymond has that dog in him, Ben Simmons has some type of kitten in him, because he's just not cut from the same bread as Draymond Green. Their starts to their career could not have been any different. Ben Simmons, number 1 overall pick, high expectations, started well and then went down. Draymond Green was taken much later in the draft. And I just don't think Ben Simmons has that mental fortitude to really continue to be an impact player in the NBA. I hope he is working with a sports psychologist or something. I expect that he has been for the last year and a half, but I just don't think he's in the right place mentally to succeed in the NBA at this point in time.
Yeah, I think we all agree that the biggest thing holding back Ben Simmons is Ben Simmons. It's definitely going to be hard for a guy who's been an all-star, been a number 1 overall pick, to basically tell the world that he's the team's 3rd best player and acknowledge the fact he is a role player at this point. Doesn't help that he doesn't have any, coaching experience behind him, or I guess you could say good leaders. I would not classify Kyrie and KD as good leaders. So it's all going to be an uphill climb for Ben Simmons on the Nets. But if he does put it together, like I think he can, the Nets will be scary and a real threat next year.
Let's not forget about the fact that he's also coming off an injury. So first we have to see how he looks coming off that injury. Then we can determine how he goes from there, because there's just some players that when they come back from injury, that's basically it.
Yeah.
Like one big injury, you play out for a whole year and that's it. So we really just have to see how he's going to be back. And I think there is still that mentality, like there's still that little mental thing with him, especially because he didn't even play in the playoffs. So
yeah, I mean, we saw how Isaiah Thomas's injury derailed his career. Obviously, that's a little different because he's a small guy and really needed his athleticism to survive. But with regards to Ben Simmons being traded, I question just how much value he actually carries on the trade block. I mean, we saw how long it took for him to be moved out of Philadelphia. I mean, what was it? It was at least half a season. It was until
Oh,
the
yeah.
trade deadline,
Well,
right?
Daryl Morey was also looking for like a superstar, like
Yeah, he
James
was holding
Harden. So
out.
that's a little bit
But
different.
when you look at what the Nets are asking, I'm not comparing Ben Simmons to Kevin Durant when I say this, but when they're asking for 2 All-Stars in return for Kevin Durant, you question what they'll be asking for Ben
Yeah.
Simmons, looking just at that. So I would be surprised to see Ben Simmons get traded, especially considering the fact that he has yet to play a game for that team. So I think he'll be on the roster day one, and this Nets team will be forced to figure it out after having what seemed like such a rift between all of them just weeks ago.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
agree with that.
Any final thoughts about the Nets and Ben Simmons?
Uh,
All right, well,
Nah,
I
got
think
out.
that's going to do it for us in today's video. I ask that you please drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment. What do you think's wrong with Ben Simmons? What do you think the Nets ceiling is this year? Should the Nets trade Ben Simmons for Victor Wembanyama on draft day next year? We want to thank you guys once again for watching today's video, and we will see you guys in the next episode.